recognize Senator McDaniel to speak on the bill. We're on final passage. Senator McDaniel, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you all will indulge me just for a moment, I do recognize as I stand here what apparently is clear a minority position again, but it's something that I feel compelled to address nevertheless. When I was campaigning last year around the state, one of the primary things people would tell me about politicians in general is that they claim to do one thing, but then they get to Washington and they invariably do the other. They claim to believe one thing, but then they get to Jackson and they invariably do the other. It's the inconsistency of the politician that draws the anger from the people. It's the inconsistency of our positions that draw their ire. It's a trait driven in large part by self-preservation. We all, each of us, want to be reelected, so naturally play the game. And the reason I think this is relevant for this particular position is that this bill is nothing more than a continuation of that game. Senate Bill 2161 does absolutely nothing to repeal Common Core. It purports to do one thing. It pretends to do one thing. It sends the message that it's doing one thing. And in so doing, it provides each of us political cover so we can go home and tell our constituents one thing and then come back to Jackson and do the other. The details of the bill matter. We're creating a commission that has no power. A commission that's simply advisory in its stances and positions. A commission that's going to suggest something to the State Board or the State Department of Education, who have already made their positions perfectly clear that they have no intention to change a single thing in regards to Common Core. Kerry Wright's made it clear. The others have made it clear. The superintendents have made it clear. So a commission is going to speak to those whose mind is already determined and made up. Good cover for politicians, but not very practical. You see, I'm concerned. I'm confused. Where's the opposition to Common Core? It would seem that if you're for Common Core, you should stand here and state your convictions in front of the people of this state. But likewise, it would seem that if you're against Common Core, you should stand here and be against it. Don't create a commission to hide behind that does nothing, that has no authority, that has no power. People are watching. They're still watching. They're watching now. And they should be watching. These moms out there that are fighting alongside of their kids every evening because of Common Core, something I can speak about directly because I do have a child in second grade public school. I've seen what it's done. I've seen the confusion on its face. I understand the ramifications of the decision. And that's why it's unusual to me to watch us kick this can down the road and then assume that we'll come back and fix it in a non-election year. I've been here 8 years. I've heard that a lot. We're always going to come back and fix something in a non-election year, and it never, ever happens. I will submit to you that if we pass this bill, you'll never see a change, a significant change in Common Core. And the reason for that is because we have found our cover. We'll go home and talk about the commission. And if the commission fails, we'll blame the commission. It wasn't us, after all. We abdicated that power, at least in an illusory state. And those of you that stand to say you're for it, or maybe you're against it, we just don't know, you claim that this is somehow a step in the right direction. Is it? This isn't a step in the right direction. It's not even a lean in the right direction. You claim that we'll make the changes later. I find that suspect, to say the least. And then they claim, lastly, that these are the experts in the standards. Well, who made the standards prior to Common Core? I thought that was the State Department of Education. Weren't they already experts in education? Weren't they already experts in the standards? They made the standards before. They abdicated the responsibility because they thought they could lay their hands on $4.35 billion of federal aid. That's what this is about. It's about the money. Ladies and gentlemen, don't hide behind the bill. If you're for Common Core, say so. If you're against it, say so. But don't claim we've made a step in the right direction with this bill. This bill means nothing. This bill does nothing. And I'll just close with this, a couple of more prospects just to consider. The same organization, that is the Mississippi State Department of Education, that adopted Common Core because they were seeking $4.35 billion or a stake thereof, are the same ones now we think are going to change their minds simply because the Commission suggests some changes. Keep in mind, it's that same group that needs the No Child Left Behind waivers to avoid the financial sanctions that are sure to come if they don't adopt Common Core. Here's the language. Here's the language. If you look at the program's executive summary, it says that one of the criteria for reform so happens to be using what's called a common set of high-quality standards that have been adopted by a significant number of states. No other program fits that but Common Core. Rename it, rebrand it, change it all you wish. They won't change the substance of it because they don't want to let go of the possibility of receiving federal funds. That's what this boils down to. It's smoke and mirrors. It's cover for the circus. Better yet, it's full of sound and fury, and it signifies absolutely nothing. If you're for Common Core, stand up and say it. If you're against it, stand up and say it. But don't seek cover with this bill. This bill needs to die.
Senator Jordan, for what purpose do you seek recognition?
I have a question for the Speaker. For Senator McDaniel.
Does Senator McDaniel yield for a question?
Yes.
You're recognized,
Yes.
Senator Jordan.
Senator McDaniel, what do you have against, do you know how Common Core came into being?
Yes, sir.
Know its origin? Do you know its origin?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right. 75% of the governors, even more, of the 50 states got together, made a recommendation, including the popular governor of this state. Will you agree?
What happened, Senator Jordan? They did what a lot of governors do and politicians do under difficult circumstances. They saw the possibility of receiving federal funds, and they rushed into a program before they had the chance to research it.
Are you against
And that's why a number of those governors now are beginning the opt-out process, even as we speak, including our own governor and Governor Jindal of Louisiana.
Are you against federal funds?
No, sir. I'm for constitutionally spent funds. And there are certain things the federal government does very well and should be doing it. I am not against federal funds. They should be spent according to the Constitution of the United
Before
States.
Common Core, whatever we had in place, we've been on the bottom of the bottom for a long, long time.
Well,
and what
Senator,
are you suggesting, since you're against Common Core, and I don't know what you're for, what do you suggest that would get us off the bottom?
Well, it sounds like you just indicted the entire State Department of Education.
Well, so be it. I'm talking about getting us off the bottom, sir.
At least you're being honest about it. The point is, the same State Department of Education that promulgated standards prior to Common Core is the same Department of Education that's going to be listening to the recommendations of an illusory committee.
Well, what do you recommend?
It's the same people, Senator. Perhaps it's time to change some of the members of the Department of Education.
Well, there's something called enlightenment. Some of the same people can become enlightened and do better.
How many years have you served in this body, Senator?
23 years.
Well, in 23 years, you should have taken some action to make a difference.
Should have done what?
Should have taken the action to make a difference, if that's what you're claiming now.
Well, that's what
You've had 23 years to make a difference.
Well, that's what I'm trying to talk to you about, making a difference.
Let's talk about it.
You're debating, but you don't have anything to offer in place of Common Core. You fighting Common Core. You don't have anything constructive to offer.
Absolutely, I do. I would trust those members. I would trust those same members of the Department of Education that you're trusting now to adopt or not adopt the recommendations from a council that's created so you can have political cover back home.
And where would those recommendations come from?
Well, the recommendations have always come from the State Department of Education. That's been that way since you've been in this body.
Well, then let's allow them to try it again, even though they made mistakes. As an attorney, you made mistakes, but you didn't stop practicing law because you made some mistakes, did you? Or did you not?
I thought you were the one proposing change, Senator. It sounds like you're arguing for the status quo.
No, I'm not arguing for no status quo. I'm arguing to try to get us off the bottom. But you're not offering anything constructive to get us off the bottom.
I am suggesting to you that a commission is not going to offer anything constructive either, because the same Department of Education that made the decision prior to Common Core is going to be the same Department of Education that's going to be making the recommendations post Common Core.
Yes, sir. Just finally, there are other states who are using Common Core principles. It's just a standard, and they are doing yeoman's job. They're not on the bottom. Why, when we use Common Core, we have to be stuck on the bottom? So it may be something we're doing wrong. All of the other states, many of those 45 or 46 states that adopted Common Core, all of them are not doing bad. They are not on the bottom.
And your
So Common Core is not your cause for being on the bottom.
And your proposal is that a 6-month commission that has no power outside of an advisory power is somehow going to change that?
I don't know what it's going to take to change it. It could, because people do have change in mind. People do become enlightened by experience. I'm not saying you made mistakes 10 years ago, you won't make the same ones now. I hope you've been enlightened. You've improved yourself.
Well, perhaps after another 23 years in the Senate, we'll make some changes.
No, we can make some now if we do the right thing instead of stumbling into the future backward.
I'm curious, what's your evidence that Common Core works?
What?
What's your evidence that Common Core works?
Common Core is just a standard. We need to be measured by something. Look, when I left Mississippi to go out west to school, I had to compete just like anybody else came from any other state. So I think students can do in Mississippi what they do in New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, anywhere else.
Yeah.
But we just have to focus on something.
We do. I agree. And that's why my father was a college professor, why my mother-in-law has been a 40-year school teacher, why my wife has been a 15-year school teacher, why my kids are in public schools. I'm very aware of the problem. I'm very aware of the issue. My position is having an advisory council with no teeth is doing nothing to change.
Well, you're talking about somebody else who have done it. I'm talking because I've done it for 33 years, and I know we are able to compete. I don't duck any standard. I don't care what states have them. If they're good, they're good. And saying, let me finish, saying that Common Core is all bad, I think we're riding for a fall if we listen to that.
I'm not going to argue with you, Senator Jordan. On one hand, you say we can compete. On the other hand, you say we can't compete. One hand, you say...
Well, we can't compete when we stop, when we change.
You've taken so many contrary positions, I can barely remember them all.
Well, you have to do a complete analysis on me. It's going to take this, and it's going to take some gray matter to do the analysis that I'm trying to explain to you.
I'm sure
it doesn't mean I'm wrong.
I'm sure that makes sense to someone somewhere.
Thank you, Senator McDaniel.